Hello everybody, and welcome to this lesson on sound devices in poetry. In the previous lesson we talked about the structure of poetry and how that distinguishes it from prose. In this lesson we're going to talk about a specific type of poetic device, sound devices, which make poetry unique and again distinguish it from prose. So just as a quick review here, remember that prose is our everyday sort of writing that we find in novels, textbooks, newspapers. Now, prose is organized differently than poetry because prose is organized into sentences and paragraphs, whereas a poem is organized into lines and stanzas. Without going into too much detail here, maybe we could just take a look at the images that I provided. On the right here we've got a poem. Again, the poem is organized into lines and stanzas. Whereas over here you can clearly see that the way this newspaper article is organized is different. It's organized into paragraphs and sentences, although of course we would need to zoom in to see exactly what's been written there. Alright, so let's move on to poetic devices. Again, poets use certain devices which distinguish poetry from prose, one of them being sound devices. Sound devices are going to make a poem sound a certain way. They're going to make a poem sound musical. They're going to allow that poem to have a rhythm or a beat. If we were to read prose out loud, prose is going to sound like natural speech, sort of like I'm speaking right now. If you were to read a poem out loud, it should sound more musical. And that's one of the things that distinguishes a poem from prose. And of course, a poet needs to use certain techniques to actually develop this sound, this musicality in their poems. So let's take a look at just a few types of sound devices. The first one is alliteration. This is when a poet uses or repeats the same consonant sound at the beginning of words. Take, for instance, the tongue twister, Peter Piper. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. You can hear the P sound being repeated again and again at the beginning of most of the words in that tongue twister, or that poem. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. Again, that has a sort of musicality. It has a sort of rhythm when I say it out loud. It's pleasing to the ear. And most tongue twisters use this technique, alliteration. Another sound device that poets use is assonance. This is when the same vowel sound is used over and over again. And with assonance, that vowel sound does not need to come at the end of the word. It could be found anywhere within the word. It could be at the beginning, the middle, or the end. So here's an example here by a rapper named MF Doom. My rhymes attack, a scary act, all black like Mrs. Mac. You can hear the A sound being repeated again and again. Next we have meter. Meter is a pattern of stressed and unstressed syllables. Remember, a syllable is one unit of sound. So let's take a look at this one stanza from The Tiger by William Blake. All of the bolded letters or syllables are the ones that are being stressed. And when I say stressed, I mean said more loud than the other syllables. Tiger, tiger, burning bright in the forest of the night, what immortal hand or eye could frame thy fearful symmetry? And when I read the poem like that, you can kind of hear the beat, you can hear the meter. It sounds musical. It sounds almost like there are drums playing in the background. Okay. So this is another technique that makes the poem sound a certain way, sound pleasing to the ear. Right? And these are just a few examples of sound devices in poetry which distinguish it from prose. These aren't the only poetic devices that are used by poets, but nor is this a complete list of sound devices used by poets. This is just a sample of a few of them. All right, I just want to explain a few of these to help you understand how poetry is actually different from prose, so that when you write a poem, you're not writing prose. Okay. So anyway, that's it for this lesson. Thank you for listening.